Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be looking at some of the winning teams from the Portland Regionals and also the Sao Paolo Regionals from Brazil. Both of them were happening right around the same time, and basically you had two different teams, and that's really what I wanted to talk about, at least with this video today. And then we'll do like a full recap of Portland in tomorrow's video, because I have a lot to say. There was a lot of different things going on there. And it's interesting to see where the meta is right now, but more on that in the next video. But at least for today, I wanted to look at the winning team. So let's go all the way down here. Let's go to finally first place winner Joe UX9, aka Joseph Ugarte. You know, he's been at this for a while now. You know, he broke the streak, as they say. You know, third time's the charm. He came second place in, you know, some of these other regionals, but then finally he quote unquote went back home to Portland, as we say, because, you know, this was he won it back in 2017, I believe, right? So now he came here and then defended this title and got his second Portland regional win, and of course he broke the curse, as we said, of finally getting through that big regional win in this season. So basically this is Joe's team. It is a Sun team with Jumpluff and with also Scarf Great Tusk. This is something that we've also featured on the channel before from Justin Knox's team, you know, aka 45 Mice, along with Santino as another builder there. And if you just compare the two teams, I believe Joe got some inspiration there, right? Because he's used this team quite a bit, but then he did make one interesting change here. The Torkoal is Fissure instead of Yawn here. So if I were to put both of these teams back to back, here's Fort Wayne. Again, if we go down all the way to Fort Wayne Regionals, right? If we go to Santino's team, aka 45 Mice, this is Santino's team over here, aka Justin Knox as well. The one difference here, you know, is the Torkoal had Yawn here, but I feel like everything else was the same. If I were to just like put these two teams back to back. So again, I have no idea if the EV spreads are the same. You know, this is something you'll have to ask Joe for instance. But as far as like the movesets and items, I believe everything is pretty much the same, right? It's Focus Sash Taunt Chien Pao here. It's Sleep Powder Encore Tailwind Jumpluff. And then over here, I believe that is exactly what we get. Yep, and it's AV King Gambit Tera Fire, not Flying. Yep, that's correct. And then Specs Fluttermane with a very standard set here. And I believe they're both Tera. Oh, no, it's not. Actually, Joe changed it to Tera Fairy, whereas over here on Justin's team, it was Tera Water here. So that was one change that I missed originally when I was looking at both teams. But the main thing is that the Torkoal and the Chien Pao are both Tera Flying. And that's important on a team like this, I feel, because the Great Tusk doesn't have too much opportunity to click Earthquake next to, you know, its partner Pokemon unless they're like a flying type. So what, you know, Joe and, you know, Santino and Justin were figuring out with this is, let's make the Torkoal Tera Flying, so this way we can get the Great Tusk its attack boost, but still be able to click Earthquake next to it, because, you know, we might be able to protect one turn, but then next turn maybe we might go with the Tera Flying and then go from there, right? And then also with the Chien Pao, so Chien Pao would be great next to Great Tusk, because now, you know, you have the speed, you know, with your Scarf, but you need a little bit more pressure with the damage. So Chien Pao can give you that, but the problem there is, you know, you can't really Earthquake next to your Chien Pao unless you protect, but maybe you don't want to protect, maybe you want to attack with the Chien Pao, right? So a smart way is to, again, put Tera Flying on your Chien Pao, and now the Great Tusk is getting that damage that it needs to be able to pick up certain KOs that maybe you would not be able to do if you did not have a Chien Pao on the field, right? And if we look at Justin's team here, again, it was Jolly nature, right? So with Jolly, you can get that extra speed you need, okay, to outspeed certain threats, but you still need some damage, right? And that's where the Torkoal comes into play, to give you that damage with the photosynthesis, in terms of like the damage there. But in terms of, you know, just being able to click Earthquake next to things, you do need the Tera Flying on either of these mons, because they just help you in so many different ways, and it just gives you an out, not really an out, but like just another way to exert pressure that, you know, you don't have to like forcefully click Protect on your mons, right? And what's also cool about Torkoal is the Eject Pack, right? So with the Eject Pack, you know, if you know, just get like some kind of stat drop on your mons, like whether it's like, you know, you want to intimidate the Great Tusk here, or maybe click Icy Wind from the Iron Bundle onto like maybe, let's say, Fluttermane or whatnot, If you do that, then the Torkoal can switch out. But the main thing here with Eject is once you blow something up with overheat, you're not stuck there at -2. Now you get that free switch into something else after you've blown something up, and then maybe you can go into, you know, anything really here. So it was really, really cool to see. And we did this on our channel before when we featured, you know, Justin's team and, you know, 45 Mice's team. So really, really cool to see. And then, of course, Fluttermane, we know what this thing does, right? Because, you know, after a photosynthesis boost, now all of a sudden choice specs and the sun boost is just, you know, just ripping face, right? It's doing so much damage, and it's hard to stop. And unless you have speed control over it, you're gonna have a difficult time. And with Tailwind on the Jumpluff, this is the main niche, right? With Jumpluff over something like Lilligant, is that Jumpluff gets that access to Tailwind, right? So now it just makes your team that much more faster. You're able to outpace things. You're able to control more tempo. You're able to exert more offense, and it just makes a lot of sense here. And Tera Water is actually pretty good. It's very, very smart, actually. The Chien Pao here, of course, the taunt is really good against potential setup. And then from there, you know, because like Amoonguss is annoying, right? So you need a way to deal with it, and taunt is one way to do that. You can also stop potential protects. So this way, you can just exert all your damage without too much worry. And then, of course, King Gambit here with Tera Fire. You know, that's also for the burn stuff, you know, because then you can just neuter King Gambit's damage with that burn. But Tera Fire is also another great way to do this. And then Tera Blast, Tera Fire is also really, really nice. In the sun, for that matter, that can just blow up any kind of grass type. So it's a really, really cool move to do. Okay, but overall, it's just a very, very aggressive sun team that we've seen before. But, you know, it's really, really cool to see Joe finally get that big regional win. So shout outs to him for, you know, piloting this kind of squad. And, you know, it's really nice to see that he got Portland win. Okay, but like I said, we're gonna do all of Portland's recap in another video, but I really just wanted to spotlight this Sun winning team. So now what does this mean for teams going forward? Are you gonna see a lot more Sun on the ladder? Probably. Okay, but believe it or not, all weathers are viable right now in competitive play, and I want to do like a whole video on that later on. But you know, it's not just only Sun that's like really, really good. There's actually the snow teams are rising now, and even Sand. Tyranitar got good representation in this regional, right? So we'll talk more about that in, you know, the next video. But all weathers are good, but right now I feel like Sun has the edge just a little bit, just because of the amount of offense they can put out. Okay, but that being said, let's look into Sao Paulo's regionals. So they actually don't have all the open sheets yet, but we do know the winner, and that was I believe it was Juan Salerno. Yep, it was. And again, from what I understand, and according to my sources, it was the same team as David Kutesh's team, right? So on stream, it looked like the same 6, where it was basically Orthworm, right? And we've covered Orthworm on the channel before, but just to remind you of what David Kutesh was using back from the EUIC, it was Orthworm combined with Dragonite and Tinglu here, right? So the whole idea is, of course, Orthworm. The niche here is that, you know, when you click a ground move on it, it just regains health, so that doesn't really help you there. So it's really like good anti-Tinglu, but also your Tinglu helps it in itself, because, you know, with this kind of set, with Bulldoze and Earthquake, not only can you get speed control, but now you're dealing a lot of damage with Earthquake. Okay, which again heals up the Orthworm, and you being a steel type, you'll always have a niche, because you're able to just, you know, have a good move against a Fluttermane for that matter. And then this set alone with like Iron Defense, Body Press just does so much. You don't really care about Intimidate drops, because you're clicking Body Presses, which just rely on your defenses. And again, more speed control here on the Gyarados, able to click Bulldoze here, and then Gyarados and Tinglu and Dragonite, they all have synergy with each other, right? Because, you know, Dragonite, you can click Earthquake next to Gyarados. Tinglu, you can click Earthquake next to Gyarados, because you're a flying type naturally. You can even do like Bulldoze here. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways where you can get speed control on this kind of team. And Icy Wind Fluttermane, again, just another way to do it. So it's really, really cool to see that on this type of team. And basically, if you also look at some like recent online ladder tours that were not regionals, there's always an Orthworm team with the Tinglu, and it's always like within the top cut. So it's actually really, really strong in terms of the combination. because again, you're able to support the entire team by going for these Intimidate drops and also dropping special attack damage with your Tinglu. So the Orthworm is actually very much thriving here. Okay, and this is not also to mention the fact that it has Shed Tail. Okay, because Shed Tail, right, what does it do? It allows you to set up that substitute and you're able to pivot out into one of your other big sweepers. Can you imagine like Dragonite or Fluttermane behind a substitute just dealing damage? How are you going to ever remove the Fluttermane, right, who normally can't protect, okay, and then all of a sudden you set up a sub and swap into it, and now Choice Specs Fluttermane behind sub just goes crazy, okay? So it's really, really cool in terms of like the different combinations here. Obviously Haze here is nice for Dondozo stuff, but also like stat drops in general. So that's also really, really nice. Okay, but in terms of the Dragonite here, being able to set up Dragon Dance behind a substitute, that's also really, really cool if you're able to do that. And then you just outspeed everything and you just click, you know, Tera Blast, Tera Flying for all that matter. And it is multi-skill Dragonite here. Now, again, just don't take it, you know, don't completely say I was wrong. But like, again, from what I understand, it was the same team, but only time can tell. This is what my sources have told me, okay, that it was in fact the same team that Juan Salerno used as David Kutesh. And if it is not, then we will correct it in the comments below. But from what I understand, that it was the same team, right? So it's interesting to see how, like, again, you always need that big steel type in this meta, right? I feel like if you're a steel type, you have a place, okay, because you always have that edge over Fluttermane, right? Which is the most used Pokemon right now in regulationC. So, and again, the fact that you also have that anti-Tinglu synergy and you can do something against Fluttermane is really, really good. And the fact that you have this fighting coverage move, which is great into all the Rune Pokemon, again, just really separates Orthworm from the rest of the crop, right? In terms of like niche Pokemon that have good viability in this form. Orthworm is 100% very much viable. Okay, we gotta put it a little bit higher on our tier list, which we're gonna do again in a couple of videos because we have to adjust that thing, right? It's been, you know, quite an interesting month in regulationC, and some things have to be bumped up and some things have to be moved down a little bit. But more on that in another video. But I just really wanted to look at both of these teams in terms of, you know, the winning stuff right now, but also the second place team, right? Let's go back to Portland here. Let's look at the second place team, right? So this was from Zishao, right? And again, it is Dondozo. I feel like, again, we always ask this age-old question: when is Dondozo going to go away? Is it ever going to go away? And the answer is no. I feel like it's just still so good. You just have to adapt these teams, right? Is Dondozo worse in regulationC? Of course. But does that mean it's bad? Of course not. Look, it's still top cutting, you know, this region. You had one in second place, right? And then if you go down the list, you still have a couple of Dondozos here in day 2. Actually, you have a lot of Dondozos here in day 2. It's just a very specific type of Dondozo team that is, you know, top cutting, because you still have to adapt it based on the meta, right? But if you look at Zishao Ding's team over here, so basically this is the ideal way where you're adding Glimmora plus a big special attacker like either Fluttermane and Chiyu. Okay, and then this last slot here can be either a Iron Bundle, which we see over here, which is, by the way, rising again in the meta, or this is also usually a Dragonite for that matter. I believe I built this 6 with Dragonite, you know, for a couple of viewers that wanted a Dondozo team. So, you know, both those types of Dondozo teams, you know, that with Dragonite and also this one are very much the premier Dondozo teams running around right now. And you just look at this, right? So again, of course, Terra Grass, Terra Blast, you know, this is for like the Palafin stuff because of the Haze shenanigans. And then, you know, Oblivious is also an interesting here in terms of the ability on Dondozo versus like Unaware. You know, that's always up for debate. But again, it is Assault Vest Glimmora here with Mortal Spin, no Sludge Bomb, but again, you do have additional coverage moves with like Earth Power, Energy Ball, and Power Gem. So you got a lot of bulk here because you have the Assault Vest. Okay, and then from here, of course, Choice Specs Fluttermane and Focus Sash Chiyu. A lot of damage here. You know, and even like the Glimmora can even dish out some damage if you're next to the Chiyu here. And then the bundle with Booster Energy, Speed Control is really good with Icy Wind to be able to get that speed control against a Chiyu and a Fluttermane on the opposing side. And then from there, you're just able to outspeed and outpace them and overpower them eventually, right? If you have the speed control on your side, you're always going to be in a good spot. So that's what this is. And then, of course, Dondozo just comes in potential endgames and starts cleaning up. You could even lead Dondozo for that matter, right? It's always a little bit tricky in a best of 3 against Dondozo's teams because they can either lead with it, bring it in the back, you know, it all really depends. They could even go the Glamora route to set up their poisons, but that's like a whole different kind of flow charting when you play against these teams, right? But again, it's just very interesting to see that you know, even though that Dondozo is still, you know, very, very strong, despite the fact that regulationC kind of hurt it a little bit, but it's still pretty darn good. Okay, but yeah, just wanted to recap, you know, the Sun team from Joe, and of course the Sand team, not the Sand team, the Orthworm team in, you know, over on Sao Paulo side from Brazil regionals today. It's just super interesting to see you know, different variations of different teams doing relatively well, right? It's not just the same Palafin balance team that is just running around here. Okay, actually, if you go into Portland, like, where is Palafin? Let's take a look here. Do you see that much Palafin? Like, you got 2 of them here in 7 and 8. You don't have any in the top 6. So there's something to be said about not having a single Palafin in the top 6. But then as you scroll down, you'll see a little bit. But look at 9 through 16. Any Palafins here? Not really. Just one more, okay? But I digress. We'll talk about all of that in another video, in the next video, I should say, for the whole recap. But I really just wanted to highlight the 2 winning teams. So yeah, that'll be it for now, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed watching the regional, and if you do need to catch up on it, you can always watch them on the YouTube channels or even on the Twitch streams from Play Pokemon. So shout outs to them for being able to give us that coverage just in case we missed both of those tours going live. All right, so we'll be back in another one, guys. Peace out and have a good night.